Well, hello, good day, and welcome back to the Mental Health Show. I'm your host once again, David Burrows, and glad to have you joining us. We hope you've been enjoying this series of the Mental Health Show. Today we're coming into episode number 5. So over the last 4 weeks, we've had a lot of different important mental health topics covered, and time for some review. We want to, what do you do when, maybe you don't have immediate access right away? Well, maybe you do have the access, you just don't know it. There's lots of online resources available to support you and your families. And I am no expert. We just bring the experts here. And joining us today, once again, Megan Walker and Shannan Bishop. Thank you both for being here, ladies.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yes, it's been a great journey so far with all the discussions that we've had over mental health. It's been very informative. But as you heard me saying there, as we come into all this, there's a lot of online resources available, and we're going to talk about that. But just before we do, let's review who you ladies are. Megan Walker, tell everybody who you are and who you're with.
So my name's Megan, and I work at the Canadian Mental Health Association, as well as Access Open Minds here in Chatham. I have two kind of main roles. One, I'm the mental health promotion specialist with CMHA. So I do a lot of workshops and presentations in the community as more of the preventative side and letting people know what resources are available. And then at Access Open Minds, which is our youth hub for anybody ages 11 to 25, I provide walk-in counseling sessions for youth.
Okay, very good. And Shannan, welcome back again. And the same thing, kind of review who you are and what your role is.
So I work at Chatham-Kent Children's Services in the mental health department. I am a STAT crisis counselor there. I also help out with our communications and social media pages at Ckcs. And I also sit over at Access Open Minds once or twice a week, meeting with youth between 11 and 15 who are seeking mental health services.
Right. Very good. And let's remind everybody, too, that, these services, a very important factor, are free, right? None of these services cost any money. So that's which I would say is probably a barrier in the beginning to a lot of people, or they think it's a barrier. And it's, do you run into that a lot where people think, I don't have the money for your services? So is that an obstacle?
I think I've heard in general when I'm out in the community, even doing presentations, sometimes people, when they think about therapy, they think of the private practitioners who do have fees associated with them. So just kind of coming back to that education piece, letting people know that there are free resources in the community and how to make those connections.
Right. What would be the difference? If there is private practices, for example, that people can pay to use, but then there's public services that are available, is there a huge difference?
I think, sorry, Shannon, if you want.
No, you go ahead.
I think one of the biggest differences that I see is the wait times. So with free services, there's a higher demand there. So there might be a little bit longer of a wait to get connected to a therapist, whereas private practitioners, they're usually more readily available with the fee associated.
Okay. Shannan, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to comment on as well. And I also think some of it depends. If you're looking at Chatham-Kent Children's Services, for example, a lot of us are generalist. So we do all different types of therapy for all different reasons, whereas sometimes there are private therapists that are very specific about their practice. So, for example, would only do grief work or only do domestic violence work. And so I think you also have to consider what you're looking for and what your options are in the community.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about, you mentioned wait time in there, Megan. Let's talk about that. Obviously, especially right now, I would think that there's probably been an increase in need virtually. And now we were just talking about stage 3 just before we went live here, and so things are going to be changing there. What are the wait times like right now?
Wait times always fluctuate throughout the year, and it depends on what service you're looking for. So some of our programs, if to get connected to a therapist, for instance. Sometimes it can be, a few weeks or so. Other times therapists might have availability on their caseload earlier on. But we do also have supports in the meantime too. So it's not like you call and you get a referral made and then you're dropped. We do have our first response team, for example, at CMHA that's available 24/7 for check-ins, for that immediate crisis support, some coping strategies. And as well at Access Open Minds, we have a process where youth meet with our peer navigators first. And while referrals are being made or while those connections, you're waiting for that ongoing support, they can continue to meet with the youth up until that point. So it's a smooth transition.
Right. Okay, very good. So there's always something available, I guess, basically at the end of that. And you sort of led into what my next question would be, is if there's something of an emergence need that's available. I mean, 24/7, somewhere something is available, right? Which is fantastic news for our communities. And our communities are definitely really seeing the need right now. Shannan, I'd like to come over to you and maybe if you could talk a little bit more about the services that you do offer. Let's kind of remind everybody of the programs available.
So we offer a variety of mental health services. We are also an amalgamated agency, so we have our developmental services and our protection services for our community also under the Ckcs roof or in the Ckcs building. So mental health wise, we offer, going back to wait times, some of our programs do have longer wait times than others. So for example, our brief services and our walk-in single session services, it's almost immediate. There's very little wait time for our brief services, and we offer our walk-in single session daily. So those are readily available programs. Our STAT crisis program for any youth between 5 and 18 that's in a crisis kind of situation, whether that be with self-harm or suicide. As an example, there's no wait time for that program. Within 24 hours, a counselor will be in contact with you. And then we also have our ongoing counseling services, and there tends to be a longer wait for those services only because the counselors are only able to carry so many families at a time, and oftentimes it's longer term services, so the turnover just isn't as quick.
Right. Okay. Megan, can you expand on that with the services your end of things?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So at Canadian Mental Health, we provide, again, a variety of mental health services for those who are 16 and up in the community. So we have, again, our first response team. That's for that immediate need 24/7. We have our RATE team, which is our rapid assessment and intervention team. So great partnerships with our family health teams and local practitioners that make referrals that way. We have some housing supports, life skills, vocational, as well as our longer term case management program. And then at Access Open Minds, again, we're the youth hub, where we're basically helping youth 11 to 25 get connected to the right kind of supports. So if that's them sticking with staff that are within our own agency in the building itself, accessing different groups, or making referrals to other community agencies. Like Shannan said, we have great partnership with Ckcs, for example.
Well, yeah, and the partnership together really broadens everything that's available. And I would think that having the partnerships really creates more awareness in the community that this type of service is available, right? Do you help promote each other in all of this?
We do, yeah, and I think we're getting better at that almost every day, right, Megan? I mean, we try and sit on committees together, and we do things like this mental health show together. And it really helps, I think, for example, having a Ckcs employee over at Access, just for that continued discussion about how to streamline services for youth and families and to kind of make it less complicated to access those services. So it's an ongoing kind of journey, I guess, together, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And that being said, with all these services and the key, I like the word access. That's a great word for mental health resources, So let me just paint a scenario here, maybe for a moment, and then one of you can or both can jump in and tell me how this would work. So I'm sitting at home. I'm by myself. I don't have anybody at home with me. I don't have anybody even local. I have no family. I'm very alone. Let's paint it that way. But I do have a mobile device, and I do have a computer. And maybe I'm not quite ready to pick up that phone or whatever, send the email or however I would connect with one of your services because, well, I'm embarrassed or I don't want to be labeled, stomping that stigma. It's still out there. What would somebody like me do?
Do you want to?
Sure. So one of the options is obviously some online programming. Like I heard you say that you have access to a phone, smartphone, internet. One of the big programs that we promote at CMHA is our Bounce Back program. So it originated at a CMHA Ontario branch. It's for anybody 15 and older, and it's basically self-guided skill building workbooks and videos that you can do at your own pace. So it's perfect for those who have more kind of mild to moderate stress, anxiety, worry. They also expanded to kind of help with coping with COVID-19 in particular too. So it's really nice, especially like you said, for those who maybe aren't ready yet or aren't comfortable, want to try some things on their own at their own pace. And with that program too, you can have access to an online coach to help you work through some of the workbooks too.
Now, that's fantastic. I like the part where you said even an online coach. So there's someone right there, an option to connect with right away. Is this working? Like, are people using these services? I think it's great that they're available, but are they being used?
Mm-hmm. So from what I know, I think they are being used. The program has recently expanded and received more funding to get, especially in light of COVID-19, to have more availability, more trained staff to be those online coaches. And one thing with the program too is the online coaches, they're not providing counseling or therapy or that crisis support per se. They're more coaches who are trained specifically in the Bounce Back program to help you develop the skills along the way. So it's a really great program from what I've heard. Whether you go the step to download all the workbooks, and you can either do that, download them, or they will mail them out as well if you want a paper copy. Or if you just want, they have videos that you can just watch with tips and resources too.
Fantastic. Shannan, I'm going to come over to you for this one. I think you're probably the right one. The Kids Help Phone. This is something that's been around for quite some time, and I know it's been greatly supported in many communities. And now, we talk about that device. Maybe the young folks don't want to talk on the phone, right? Texting's available with Kids Help Phone now. Is that right?
Yes, it is. You can call or text, or I think you can even email them as well. Now, Kids Help Phone, we do recommend Kids Help Phone, and we do support the program, and we do provide cards and contact information to families so that they can access online or at home. One thing to remember about them is it's not a follow-up service. It's kind of like if you need them in the moment, they're available. But if you're looking for the same counselor on a regular basis, to work on a specific treatment goal over a period of time, I don't know that Kids Help Phone necessarily offers that, like maybe Access or Ckcs or CMHA.
Right. So it's kind of an in the moment. I just want to, for whatever reason, I just need somebody, and I can text somebody, and maybe I always tell my kids, this is really important. I think that we share, if you don't want to talk to mom or dad, that's okay. But talk to somebody. Reach out to somebody, the proper somebody, right? Can you maybe share Yeah, go ahead, Shannan.
Oh, sorry. Just one more really important thing about Kids Help Phone, and the way we talk about it through the Ckcs lens is just that it's that middle of the night, right? A lot of young people struggle with that nighttime and being alone and just feeling kind of lost in their feelings during those hours of the day. And so Kids Help Phone is wonderful for times like that because it is a 24/7, 365 days a year. So, for example, your counselor at Ckcs wouldn't be available at midnight,
Right.
but someone at Kids Help Phone would be. So the idea is knowing that that's available any day, anytime to reach out.
Right. What about, is there a relationship between, say, your organizations and Help Phone, and how far does that relationship go?
So we do connect with Kids Help Phone. For example, at the beginning of all of this COVID stuff happening, our supervisors in mental health did connect with individuals at Kids Help Phone and had some meetings together to discuss just kind of how services were working and how to make sure that everybody was reaching families in the new virtual way, right? Because COVID really amped up that whole virtual world, so to speak. And so there were some meetings. We also are in connection with Kids Help Phone, and I know Megan is too, to get, business cards and posters and pamphlets and brochures and things like that so that we can advertise in our building and be able to hand things out to families. The other thing Kids Help Phone has is a wonderful website with lots of really great resources. So, for example, I don't know, let's take bullying, and you want to get some more information on that and how to kind of manage some of that or cope with that. They have some self-help tools right on their website to use. So that's a really good point of access for families online as well.
Yeah. Again, access being the key word here today, I guess. We talk about that virtual world. And, as we've had you on here before, we talked about that virtual world, and, security is a big part of this virtual world, especially with, well, here's an example. Here I have both of you there. I don't know, there could be somebody standing off to the side off camera that I don't see, and maybe they can hear everything too. Can we share, Megan, let's come back to you. Can you share maybe the security side of that virtual world?
Yeah, I think we try as best as we can to have as much privacy in that security piece. And then it hits a certain point where there's the unknowns that we can't control, right? So in terms of our virtual platforms, through CMHA and Access, we're providing the option if youth or adults want to connect through Zoom, for example, or OTN. We have set up all the privacy needed for that to meet all the PHIPAA guidelines. But there's always that piece too when we talk with our clients in advance about some additional levels of security. So making sure that when they're joining, they're in a quieter space, if they're able to find a space in their house where it can be away from others. We try our best as well. If our staff are working from home, we're not around any of our family, or we're not in our backyards where neighbors might hear. So we have those conversations in advance and talk about that privacy and confidentiality piece. And we try to do the best that we can, meeting all of our standards and guidelines. Yeah.
I would think especially too with, dealing with young children in that virtual world. What's the conversation between children and parents? Like if I'm a young child and I'm reaching out to say, well, Kids Help Phone or Ckcs or any of these organizations, but I want to talk to you about something, Shannan, and I don't want mom or dad to know. Where's the security there, or where do you draw that line?
Yeah, and so that's always an option for the youth that we work with. And it's, again, like Megan said, it's about having those conversations with parents and youth alike, just to have the knowledge around, what virtual services are, how they work, the programs that we use, and just making sure that we have those conversations so everybody's on the same page. And most times parents are very supportive and understanding of that. In most cases, they're respectful of that privacy and confidentiality piece, and they want their kids to get help, and they understand that piece of the process. So, it's about maybe being in your bedroom for those video chats, or, maybe parents, leave you in the family room and they head outside, or, you can have conversations about what that looks like. For the younger kids, there is a lot more communication with parents just because the age, right? So, and a lot of that comes in, a 5-year-old, for example, isn't necessarily going to be able to sit down for 45 minutes and have a virtual session, right? So it just depends on the age and the presenting concerns and the conversations that happen.
Yeah. Keeping attention might be challenging virtually. I would, keep them interested, because you're not a video game, right?
No. And it's hard to play, right? Like normally for those little ones, like the 5 and 6-year-olds, we would do like play therapy or board games or, some kind of art based things. And it is tricky. You have to get creative with the virtual stuff.
You have to learn how to use share screen.
Yeah, that too.
Right?
That too.
Let's. What other online resources? Shannan, let me just stay with you for a moment. To the Ckcs website. Is that what am I going to see there?
Interesting you bring that up, actually, because we have been doing a lot of work at Ckcs around our communication and our website in particular. And so just a few weeks ago, we actually launched a new website. Now it's going to change again because we're going to be revamping it even more. But we have what's called Ckcs Press now. And so what that does on our website, you can access it at www.kcs.on.ca, and it archives everything that we are posting and everything that we want families to know. So, for example, if we did a video on self-care way back in April, and somebody wanted to revisit what that little video or information was about, they go to Ckcs Press, go back to the date, and it's right there, and they can read the article and see the video all over again as many times as they want to. So we've linked that up with our social media pages now, and so anything that gets posted on social media goes right back to our Ckcs Press. So we're kind of using that as kind of our own internal kind of online resource, if you will, so that anything like this show, for example, could be accessed through that, and it doesn't get lost in the world of social media. So you can always access it. And so we're going to start promoting, and this is a great opportunity to start this process, promoting Ckcs Press, and so that hopefully over time, other community professionals and families can know that that's a great place to start if you're looking for information about services we offer or tips or resources or anything like that.
I think that's a fantastic way to do it, because I know, coming from the social media world myself very strongly, we rely on Google a lot, right? So we Google. So why would I need that? Well, Google is like the graffiti wall of the world, and you have to filter out everything. You have to filter out the good and the bad, the ugly. And what am I looking for? Why is this so hard? Because just Google mental health, right? Ckcs might not even be the first one listed. So to go to that, it's kind of like a portal then, right?
Yeah, it is really. And it's going to evolve for the better over time. I mean, we had this in our plans all along, but of course, COVID, right? It kind of pushed us into those steps a lot faster. So it's definitely going to continue to evolve. It's already great, and I see it becoming even better over the next few months as we kind of tweak things and fine tune things. But yeah, if you visit our website, it links you right into that Ckcs Press, and everything's right there, everything right back from I think March on.
Nice. So just a great starting point. Which I think is probably a question for most people when they decide, once they come over the barrier of deciding, okay, I need some support, I'm willing to get the support. Where do I start? Let me go back to you. Maybe you can tell more. What would people see on your website?
Yeah, so our website, if you go to cmha.ca, it'll lead you to either the national or Ontario branch, and then you can choose your location. So if you're in Sarnia and Chatham, it'll bring you to Lambton, Kent, or if you're in Windsor, London, Middlesex areas. And what's nice is it outlines all of our services that we offer. So if you're maybe just trying to figure out where do I go and you want to see what kind of programs do we offer at our particular branch, all of that would be outlined there. We also have a useful section of resources that has a wide range of different brochures that cover certain topics that are quite common. So there's one on stress, for example. I think that's a pretty universal theme for all of us. So it goes through like how to manage stress, tips to cope with that. Same with things like anxiety or depression or PTSD. So it's a nice hub for information, and as well as our contact information and ways to reach out.
Very good. All of these resources are fantastic online, and the services that your organizations are providing extremely important in our communities. That's pretty obvious. But how do I get started with your organizations? Can I just reach out to you directly and, sign me up for help, or do I need a referral of some sort?
So in general, with CMHA, usually first point of contact for most people is coming through our first response team. So they're reaching out to us, whether they call our main line or our specific first response team phone number. And then from there, we'll do an assessment and refer you to whichever program is necessary. So anybody can reach out at any time for services. Same with Access Open Minds. Youth can call, families can call to book an appointment. But of course, we still get referrals from family doctors too. A lot of times people will go to their doctor first because they might have more of a comfortable relationship with them. Or sometimes the symptoms that they're experiencing can overlap between physical and emotional. So sometimes they go to their family doctor first, and then their primary care practitioner associates some link with mental health, and they make that referral too. Or any community partners can refer at any time as well.
Right. Very good. Thanks, Megan. And Shannan, I'm assuming it's very similar with you.
Yes, it is very similar. And you can, again, if you go on our website, there is an email as well. So some people are preferring email now. They'll email in saying, I'm looking for counseling services. Our intake department, which is our first point of access for mental health services, they will email back and facilitate all of that through email if they're not able to do that over the phone.
Right. Okay. So again, easy, and there's that word again, access, right? Really, it's just start anywhere, and then things will kind of fall into place. And I imagine that, your partnerships between each other, like Shannan, would you receive a request for help from somebody that, maybe your organization doesn't cover, so you refer them to a different organization? Do you work together that way?
Absolutely. And that is a huge piece of those community partnerships and conversations. And Access Open Minds, as an example, does a really great job at facilitating some of those conversations through weekly team meetings and things where we have the opportunity to talk about what services are going to fit best for families, and having those conversations with each other as well as with families. And so we have a really great system between CMHA Access and Ckcs, for example, on how we can facilitate those referrals between our agencies to streamline for families.
Yeah, and that sort of leads into my final thought here is that a lot of these services are great on their own, but they probably would work well in conjunction with other services combined, right?
Yeah, I think it all depends on the individual. So with mental health, it's very unique. There might be some common signs and symptoms, but everybody experiences mental health differently. So there's never really going to be a blanket approach for treatment either, like a one size fits all. So for some, they like that combination of maybe some online resources they can do on their own, as well as counseling or medication, or one or the other. So we kind of help children, youth, families, and adults figure out what's going to work best for you. And we kind of help facilitate that process.
Yeah. Keyword, figure it out, right? Because like you say, every situation's unique. The words mental health is the main title, but there's a lot of subcategories that go on along with that. Do you receive feedback from people who use the services, or just the communities in general that maybe say, what about this? We don't have, are there ways to fill in the gaps, or are there still gaps out there that, organizations are trying to fulfill?
We do. We love feedback from other community partners, from families that we work with, and actually as part of our communications, like our communications initiative, I guess through this pandemic, has really been youth and family engagement. And so we've created some surveys at Ckcs that we have sent out through email, that we do put out on social media and our website. We want to hear from families. How are these virtual services working? Is it enough? Do you need more? Do we have a user-friendly website? Are you finding that we are meeting your needs in this kind of new way of doing business, so to speak? And so we're really interested in hearing from the entire community about that, so that we can continue to adapt our programs and services to meet the needs of the people who need them.
Yeah.
And likewise too, getting client and family surveys out there. We try to do that as much as possible, just to make sure we're providing the best care possible. And even with Access Open Minds, it's a research project in itself. So youth have the option from day one to participate if they would like in our research, in the research along the way as they're receiving services. So it's giving them a voice and them letting us know like what worked, what didn't work, so that we can really transform future services for youth. Right.
What about, just before I let you go, I'm curious, staff can be limited, right? Sometimes, and that especially right now, the internet can sometimes make things limiting, or technical problems, that sort of stuff. What about volunteers? Do you welcome volunteers? Are people able to say, I want to contribute somehow? Is that possible with your organizations?
It is. We definitely welcome volunteers and really truly need volunteers to help us kind of do the best job that we can, right? Because we just rely on them for so many things. I honestly am not sure how that's working with COVID, and our office is technically not open to the public at this point in time. So that may be a little bit of a hiccup at this point in terms of how to really do that. Typically, we would have volunteers in our office helping out with things like organizing resources or getting things prepared. We have volunteer drivers who, they are still, I believe, working now. We're driving kids back and forth to visit with, families through our protection services, things like that. So we definitely welcome volunteers, and you can access on our website or by calling our main line on how to go through that process.
Very good. Megan?
Yeah, so volunteers is definitely something that is very beneficial, especially in terms of CMHA. We primarily have volunteers for our main fundraising event that actually happened in June, which is our Ride Don't Hide event. And in terms of Access Open Minds, we actually have a youth advisory council as well as a family and carers council. So those are groups of volunteers who, have a passion about mental health and want to help improve services. So their committees, the youth one is anyone 11 to 25, and then family and carers can be any family members, loved ones. So they're kind of coming on a monthly or bi-monthly basis to discuss, what different services do you think, what are we missing, or how can we improve? And they are awesome with volunteering for any events or things that we do throughout the year. So we definitely appreciate all the volunteers we can get.
Can never have enough volunteers in any organization, right? They're a big part of the heart of organizations a lot of times. Well, thank you so much, ladies, both again for giving us your time here today. And thanks for the work that you do in your organizations. I'll just give you an opportunity to wrap up one more time. Megan, is there anything you want to add before we let you go?
Just that we're here still. We're trying to still provide as many services as possible, whether that's virtual or starting to transition to being able to provide some face-to-face contact as needed. So definitely reach out. Don't hesitate. We're here 24/7 with our first response team. And reach out to those online supports too if you're not quite ready to talk to us yet.
All right, very good. Thanks, Megan. Shannan, anything more from you?
Same thing. We are open and our services are available. You can't walk into our building yet, but we are available for virtual, and we are assessing on a case-by-case basis the need for some face-to-face services now as well. So we can definitely have those conversations with families. And one quick thing I just forgot to mention earlier when I was talking about our website and Ckcs Press, we now have the option for families to sign up for weekly email subscriptions.
Okay.
And so what that will allow is if you go on our website through the Ckcs Press, you can put your email in, and every week you'll kind of get an updated kind of summary of things that are going on or things that we've communicated or posted about, just so you can be in the know without necessarily having to remember to go on the website.
That's good to know, because lives can still be busy even in COVID-19.
Yes.
So it's good to have those reminders for sure.
Yes.
Well, thanks again so much to both of you. And thank you again for your efforts in our communities. It's really important what you're doing. So I appreciate your time here again today. And thanks to all of you who've been watching this series of the Mental Health Show. This is episode number 5. We're going to be back again next week. And if you've enjoyed this and really feel like you want to find out more, we're going to be posting all the information you saw during the show. We'll have this on the websites and the different social medias as well, all these links. Check them out. And the volunteer thing, maybe you have some resources that you can offer to volunteer as well. And we're going to be back again coming up next week. We hope you'll join us. Take the time and click that share button. You never know who somebody else out there might need these services as well. For the Mental Health Show, once again, I'm David Burrows. It's been my pleasure. Thank you again, Shannan and Megan. Until next time, take care of each other. Bye for now.